Hi everybody, and welcome back to my big backyard. Today I got a delivery of some soil. This is blended topsoil, 2 scoops, and 1 scoop of mushroom soil, which is really great compost. Now, what happened is, of course, I got my delivery of soil and I was so excited to do work that, of course, I didn't document starting the work. Now, all the mushroom soil is still here in this pile, and if we walk over to my garden, I'm going to show you what I've been working on. As you can see, here's my vegetable garden, which consists of 2 raised beds. The bigger one is divided in the middle, and the other 2 beds are smaller. We've got this one right here, which is where last year I had a lot of cold weather crops, and I had my kale and dill and cucumbers and things like that. And over here, I had my tomatoes in this bed last year, and I had all of my peppers in this bed. Now, the first thing I'm doing right now is I've scooped out the top layer of 2 of the beds and filled up my wagon here. My plan is to just take the top layer of that off, and that I took the top layer off of this one. And the plan is to take this lovely pile of soil, and I'm actually going to go all the way back to the meadow with that and spread it out thinly on the ground just to add some soil to the meadow so that the meadow has bare ground, places where I can scatter seeds so it'll be a bit more nutritious and allow the seeds to make contact with the soil better when I go ahead and plant more seeds out there in a little bit. So that's 2 gardens I'm working on today. I'm working on my vegetable garden, and I'll be working on the meadow. So now, as you can see, we're out in the meadow, which right now is a lot of grass and some burnt spots where I lit fires and burned off the grass on top, mostly in hopes of exposing some soil down below. And as you see, if I rub my feet through it, it's still some dry, dead grass. But what I'm hoping is that some of the things that are here, the stuff that I don't want, ragweed, a lot of that grew last year, and that maybe some of that won't come up again this year. Last year I did try to cut down all of the ragweed before it went to seed. I did my best, but you never get it all, and it really doesn't take much to spread a lot of seed with ragweed. But I didn't plan this meadow as well as I probably should have. So I'm just gonna pick a couple spots, and I'm gonna spread out this wagon load of soil, and we'll just see what happens. I don't think it's gonna look any more organized when I'm done, but my goal is to have a semi-organized meadow this year that potentially I actually have access to walk through by mowing paths, and that I can even pick cut flowers out of. We will see what happens. In case you're wondering, the little white flags over there are places where I've already scattered some seed on those bare spots. I had raked over there and I put some seeds there. We'll see what happens. I'd be happy to show you later on if anything comes up. Well, that didn't really go very far, and I'm not surprised really, but that's all of the used soil I have access to. I'm not going to throw away all of that, and I'm not going to pay money for any soil that I put back here. This meadow is technically just property that I take care of. It isn't really my property. It's just kind of like my experiment beyond my backyard. Just something that I take care of to keep it pretty because I'm the one who looks at it. So I do have a source potentially for some horse barn scrapings, that kind of old mulch, and that is free. And so what I may do, if I have that opportunity, is spread that all around back here and see what happens. We'll see, no guarantees. If not, what I'll do is continue to burn off some of this stuff as it gets dry enough that I can, and plant my meadow seeds in here anyway. So now we'll just head back up to the front to where my vegetable garden is. It's all cleaned out. Some things to note as we walk by: if you look under the willow tree, you'll see little daffodils peeking up. The very first signs that eventually, someday, maybe if we're lucky, spring will show up. Don't mind the mess. I just dumped out some pots and things here because it's a low spot in the yard. It's always a puddle when it rains. And don't mind the poor videography. I'm not very talented with this gimbal stick thing. So anyway, here's the emptied, cleared out beds. That one and that one. Those are going to be topped all the way to the top with the soil that I purchased and received today. You may wonder why I didn't do anything with the middle bed, and that's because the middle bed I topped off with some bagged topsoil, bagged topsoil, garden soil in October, right before I planted all of my garlic in here, and I just recently planted some carrots in here. So what I'm going to do is just top this off with a real thin layer of the soil around everything, but I'm definitely not removing anything from here first. And then I'll probably come back through and put a whole bunch of kale in, because it's about that time. If I grow kale out here, it should be fine. Anyway, I'll show you more when this is all done. Well, that was fun. As you can see, it is much later in the day. I mean, the sun's going down now, so it's about 5:30, and I've been out here since 4-ish, and there's that bed all topped off with this soil. The soil is really nice. Here's the second half. I only put a little bit in here. I just topped it off on top of the garlic and on top of this side where I don't really have anything planted. But I didn't want to put anything on top of where I recently planted carrots. They're already deep enough, and I don't want to do anything that would prevent them from growing. Not sure about that. And then this is the other bed, all topped off as well. I'm sure you'd love to know how much of that soil I have left. And actually, it's quite a bit. This process here took me 4 wagons full of soil, and all I had dumped in the back, in the meadow, way back there, all I had dumped back there was 1 wagon load full of, the old material from underneath. So now we'll just walk over and I'll show you how much soil is left, and I'll tell you what some of my plans are for that. So here is my pile of soil. As you can see, I really didn't even use half of it, I don't think. There's still quite a bit left. This was 3 scoops of soil total. I told him I needed a yard of soil, but I was really overestimating anyway. And it made sense to get 3 scoops because mushroom soil is what's considered a hot compost, and you definitely want to blend that in with other soil if you're going to put it straight in your garden. If I was tilling up a garden, if I had my garden was in the ground and I was tilling it, I'd probably just get straight mushroom soil and then till it in. But in this case, that's what I did. Now over here on the side along the fence, we've seen this all before, but you may well remember I have about 7 inches of mulch here in a lot of places, and I'd like to plant some more seeds in areas here. I'd like to get some poppies growing and some things. Those things are surface sown plants. I need to get them to seed and sprout on the surface of the ground. Now we know I put some in here earlier. Well, that's echinacea, but I put some things back here earlier. Some foxgloves, some delphiniums, some God, I always forget the name of what I'm trying to think of. I'll put it in here when I think of it. Hollyhocks, that's what it is. I planted some hollyhocks and stuff in here, and I would like to I did sprinkle some poppy seeds, but I really feel like there's the chance of them coming up on this surface as opposed to coming up on soil is pretty slim. So while I'm going to leave alone what I've already planted, what I'm going to do is scoop out some pockets in the ground here, probably tomorrow afternoon, and make sure that it's topsoil or soil on the surface, and then I'll spread some seeds of those kinds of things where they can actually get established in soil. It won't matter that there is mulch around it, or wood chip is really what this is. Hasn't even disintegrated enough to be mulch. But after a while, this stuff is going to break down and become soil anyway. So all of that will eventually just blend right in. So as you can see, while I'm making you all dizzy spinning this thing around, it's getting a little bit dark out here, and I've done enough work for one evening. So as beautiful as this weather is, I'm gonna go inside and I'll be out here maybe tomorrow. So as you look over here, you'll see what I did. It honestly was not a lot. And the reason that it wasn't a lot, I can show you. Let me find what I'm looking for. Probably won't be able to find it. You know, once you start trying to find your little bulbs peeking up out of the ground, you no longer can find them. But as I was going through here I noticed that I do have some bulbs coming up, which of course reminded me that I planted a ton of daffodils in here. I mean, tons. And I don't see very many peeking up except for those, but I don't remember where they are. And if I can't remember where they are, I really shouldn't be digging holes and planting other things on top of them. So I'm gonna have to do something which goes quite against my nature, and that is patiently wait for my daffodils to come up. And that might mean that some things don't actually get planted in here by seed anyway until next year, when hopefully I mark my daffodils with flags at the end of the season, and then I can plant around them in the future. I will be able to plant summer things in around here. I will be able to come in here with some zinnias and things like that. But what I planted today was, there are snapdragons in here, and there are poppies here, poppies back in that spot by the fence, and poppies here. I also went over to my my meadow today, and in the back there, which you can't really see, I put some milkweed seed down where that little white flag is in the back. So in the meadow, I have milkweed there, and let's walk over here and see what I planted here. I don't even remember. I didn't plant a lot of anything yet in here. The ground isn't exactly the way I want it. So I have some blue indigo baptisia here. And back here, I put some foxgloves and some hollyhocks. So those all need light to germinate, so I can't put any extra soil or anything on top of those. I just basically have to hope that the seeds are touching the ground, that when it rains coming up this week, they do well. Now what I am going to do is bring some of my extra soil over here and scatter it around, especially in some of the lower spots here. And then I'm going to come out here with seed and really seed this whole meadow. Don't know how it's going to work out because I don't have good access to the dirt. I need to come out and burn more or something. Not really certain what I'm going to do. All I know is that I am running out of time to get these things sown if I want them to grow this year. That's what I get for not planning anything. But anyway, we'll see what happens. All Alright, this is a meadow prep update. On Monday we had some beautiful weather, and it was supposed to be followed by cold weather and rain. So what I did is I came out here, I burned a bit more of the meadow, and I spread out leftovers of the soil that I used in my garden. And then if you look down, you'll see seeds. I spread a ton of meadow type seeds in here. There are African daisies, there are zinnias, there are Cape daisies, there are cosmos. Basically, a ton of beautiful flowers have been scattered in here, and my hope is that with the rain and the freeze and everything else, that they come up when they are ready to this spring. And I will then have a beautiful meadow with gorgeous flowers that I can potentially cut for use in my house, or that I can just enjoy and come out here and watch the bees and the insects enjoy them as well. So there will be more to this later as everything comes up and as I plant additional patches of some more specialty stuff in here later on.